So, Rodrigo, welcome to the Leadermorphosis podcast. Thank you for joining, for being here.
Thank you. Actually, I'm very happy with the invitation. I'm glad to be here.
So, I thought maybe we could start because I think I'm always interested why CEOs and founders and people like that, what is it that makes them interested in exploring self-managing organizations or organizations without traditional hierarchy? So could you say something about what do you think it is about your life experiences and who you are as a person that made you interested in exploring that at EPPO?
The first time I was talking about self-management, that's the question someone asked me, and I was not prepared for that. But listening to you now, I would answer in a very simple way, because it's not a point in my life. I would say it's like if you would imagine a life of a person as like a flow or like a story. I would say, um, even more inside me, I I value a lot uh, the individual itself, but the individual with its role in the social realm and the emancipation of this individual. I would say I believe very much that is healthy for the individual and the society, this emancipation.
And do you think that's something that you have always felt, or because you went to a Waldorf school, which is interesting, right? That's very key to the Waldorf philosophy. But do you think that it's always been a seed in you?
Um, yeah, this is very profound and challenging question. I would say it was probably always there, not so much conscience, but I would say I was always um, bothered or cau- caused me pain to perceive any kind of human slavery. From the very brutal, violent way, or other kinds, or I don't know, a bird in a, how do you call it, kind of jail.
Cage? Ah, yeah.
Yeah, a bird in a cage. It was something since I remember. No one taught me that. I saw that and this is nonsense. It should be fine. The question about the Waldorf school, I would say it made more intense, because before Waldorf school I went to Waldorf school on ninth grade.
Age 14.
Exactly, I was 14. But from my mother and supported by my father, we had at home, we are four um,
Siblings.
siblings. We had a pretty much humanistic formation. So I remember when I went to Waldorf school, it was something else. It was a known space, let's say. So I would say it made it more intense. When I was 14, in a conscious way, I got in touch with spirituality, and I was very interested. My mother took me to some lectures, and I was making questions. But then I think one point, not, I don't think, I'm pretty sure, there is one point in my life that everything changed. Um, Probably it's not, maybe it's not a coincidence, but at that time I also met in a conscious way anthroposophy. There is a one space which is called it's a place for young people, like youth section, and then we were studying and discussing. I was and I it's really clear still in my mind. This is like 30 years ago. I'm almost 47. So when I was 19, I remember I had three very clear questions. Yeah. So they were like, where did I come from? What am I doing here in Earth? And where am I going to when I die? Yeah. So it was an intense, it was an intense and profound time. So at that time, I perceived I want to do something with my life that was related to working with people, development of people. It was related to the society, to the social realm. I remember it was not a critic way, but I remember at that time my father once, I studied civil engineering. My father is an economist. We are very connected and close. So before it was with my mother, as I said, and after like more then my father got more into my life. And I remember once he said, "Oh, now I understood. You wanted to be like Mother Teresa." And then I said, not exactly. It's kind of, but I want also to make money and live, like have the money I need to do my things in life. So uh, that's the way I would answer your question. Like I believe it was always there, but since I was 19, I really discovered that was a path I wanted to walk in life, like to perceive, to build things, and so on.
So I'm curious then, when I know you had some concerns or worries when you were invited by your parents to join the family business. Your father had been running the business, and at the time you were invited in as a kind of like a consultant, right, to help them develop leadership. And there's always that tension with family businesses, right? Where the younger generation are wondering, do I make my own path? Do I step into the business? So did you feel conflicted at all when you joined the family company?
So I think it helps to very briefly describe what I did after I left my parents, which for Latin and Brazil standard is young. Like I was 23 years old. My first business was a consultancy company. I worked with how can we create prosperity with purpose in our life, like mainly with individual, couples, and family business. Yeah. And at that time, 19, 20 something, I was really into some themes. And one of them is like related to, like steward ownership. So, and also with family business, I experienced sometimes as a consultant, like there's a sibling there in the business. He doesn't want to be there actually. He's not very good at that, and it's not his calling. Yeah. So once I call that's like kind of almost a social tragedy, sometimes even
Mm.
economical. So I had that in my background. Then the business that was founded by my parents, but my father was always the person who was there in the daily business. They called me to do a program related to leadership development and those kind of things. And then a little bit later, this is like now it's like almost 14 years ago, there was this invitation. So then, yes, yes, I was in conflict, but my conflict is, wow, is this gonna be a bad choice?
Mm.
Is this something that will take out of my calling, yeah, or my purpose in life? But then I had a kind of an insight. Then I thought, maybe it's the opposite. I remember I was exactly 33 years old. And then I thought, maybe that's it's a wonderful opportunity to test all of those ideas. Some I've already tested with as a consultant, but now as an executive, as an entrepreneur. And now I very uh, peacefully say it was very, very uh, correct choice. It was so after 13, I mean, yeah, for more than 1 year, I'm not anymore a post CEO. Actually, if you go there and if you ask where is the CEO, people will say we have no CEO.
I love that.
It was discussed. It's a formal thing. I'm not more in the role of the what we call the lead link in
Yes.
self-management language. It's someone else. I still have some roles related mainly with strategy, new business, and governance. And yeah, we got very good results, like in economic automation, human, and others. So I'm very grateful for my parents, for life, for this opportunity. And I hope it answers your question.
Yeah. So I would love to dive into the sort of journey then that you've been on since you stepped into that role, because I was reading that when you first came into the company, to use a lot of listeners of this podcast are familiar with Frederick Laloux's book Reinventing Organizations, and I read that you described it when you first came into the business as very red, like a mafia almost.
Oh, even more than your shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, afterwards, at that time, I think the book even didn't exist. But when I read it, it was very clear. Yeah, it was. We were in this red stage, definitely, pretty much.
So what was it like? Was it in terms of like the leadership culture? Was it quite authoritarian? Was it like fear driven?
I have at that time the main leader. He once was with someone um, of his team, and then this person said, but I was thinking, you are not paid to think. I mean, if you want, I can tell more stories. Maybe that's a photograph I can
Mm, yeah.
share here. A
Yeah.
small, very
Snapshot.
small snapshot.
Yeah. I think we can imagine. So tell
Um,
us then, like, what do you start to change? So you're coming in, as you've told us, you have this purpose in life that you want to emancipate people and you want to help people find their purpose and be free, and you come into this red mafia-like organization. So what kinds of things, what kinds of changes do you start to introduce?
so I don't want to share a rosy story. I would say this time was really tough, and also when self-management uh, came to the company. Was different kinds of toughness. Is it correct? Toughness?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So it's different kinds of toughness. Um, After some months, we had two companies inside one company. It was really a Cold War, I would describe, It's a very good metaphor, I would say. So it was very tense because there was a lot of um, untold stories and manipulation of informations, because it was like, who will survive? And then this person, who at that time was this operation director, he went out, uh, and then more changes we were implementing. I was pretty alone, because until the stage I started to bring new people, I didn't know who I could trust. I brought a very close friend and consultant, very experienced person that I already knew from my consultancy company. So he was helping me. And talking about not the rosy story, like many people were fired. To make it concrete, I remember when we, as a consultant, before coming to the company, we were doing like our first workshops. So they would say, like, these are the leaders. They just had a very, in my sense, general name, like, these are the leaders or key people. At that time, 25 people. After 2 or 3 years, there only one was left. Two. No, sorry, one. Yeah. One was left. And this person is still in the company, actually. At that time, we had like 1,300 people, people working in the company. And in 4 years, like, of course, part of this 400 is this turnover, And also it would be that was another problem, too high turnover. But like 400 people were fired. So one part is really changing people, and another, since the beginning, through the consultancy, I had some experience with business restructuring. But since the day one, it was really clear in my mind, in my heart, I want to do that. But since the beginning, with this pill, how can I say, or remedy, of the purpose and values I want to bring. So the way we did it, because when I talk about numbers, like people who were fired, maybe it seems very dry in a way, and it is, but just parallel to it, we are doing many cultural changes, but transforming it into programs. For example, people nowadays talk a lot about the theater we still have, like now it's a self-management group or the leader of yourself. But I hired a first diagnosis, like, to interview people who were there in the field. I think we work with waste and treatment management, so collectors and so on. And then, because sometimes, this is a principle for me. I don't know. In Portuguese, we say a Greek present, a gift. If I give you something I want, I don't know if you use this term, a Greek present.
No, I like it though.
So it means I give you something I want, Like, I think these people needs this or that. Then we were interviewing these people, and you have to have the correct technique so that people really say what they think, because they were afraid, If I say the truth, some people will cut my head, which actually happened. So in the I need some time to build this minimum emotional, psychological field where people could feel a little bit more secure so that they could start to speak. So in one hand, and then I really try to be in touch with people who are there in nowadays we call the essential work. Né? And so in one hand, these interviews, people needed very basic things like washing their clothes because they went to the bus and it was smelling, have some place to shower, and we increase like the voucher they have that's related to buy food or at home or during the war. So that's how it started, because I thought, like basic needs. It was quite an science with art because the economic and financial situation of the company was not the best. Another thing is that I start to bring new people, also new ideas, new air. And then after 3 years or a little bit more, then we start to transform those ideas into programs. Talking now about the part of people development. So like back there, we started like the theater group. I remember the director said, what about if no one comes? Well, if no one comes, no one wants, then this is a bad idea. But if one people comes, then it's really one. See, for me, it's enough. I think we had 3 or 4 at the beginning. Then we did the
leader of yourself.
Yeah, the program leader of yourself. And we had others. Like since until today, it's like this. And not looking like always normally behind or linked to someone who works at Apple, there's a family, yeah? A wife, a husband, and children. Majority of our collaborators. A mother who worked or works at Apple, or a wife of a collaborator would give birth. So we would be close and then would give some a kind of package of goods and things like for that time, and all kinds. So we try to put that in to programs and policies. So this is in one hand talking about development of people and self-development. Yeah, in business, there were many changes and some big changes. At that time, we were in civil construction and waste management. Not at once, but we closed this business unit related to civil construction. It was really in deficit and had many problems. So then we focused more in waste management. Now we are into waste and treatment management. So I would say before self-management came to the company, which was 7 years after I started, I tried to work mainly into these 2 main fields, like transforming the business, and looking for people in this self-development or perspective. But also we implemented many things like related to process and related to positions and salaries, like going back to Laluk's theory. I think it's related with this yellow stage, yeah?
And orange, like you have
Yellow
levels.
and orange, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so you have over that 7 years, you're transforming the business, and you're also focusing on personal development, raising the levels of security, safety, psychological safety. And
Also
then it's
physical safety.
yes, physical safety too,
Mhm,
like basic needs, right?
mhm.
And then it's interesting because again, to go back to Lalou stages, then you get to sort of green, right? Where green has its shadow sides too. So then you have this culture where it's, warm and cozy and good relationships, but also like every decision is being taken in committees, and there's maybe like a false harmony. So you also then feel that there's like a ripeness for the next level of development, and that's when you start to consider self-management. Is that right?
Yeah. So um, I had heard, but not so much. But I had this image and idea of self-management mainly back days, like before in my life, sociocracy.
Mm-hmm.
And but I had a very clear strategy. As I always say, I'm not saying, please, for people who are hearing, that this is the right strategy. That's the one I choose for in that context. But it was this, because many things, when I go back, it was like, wow, it's kind of an insight, an intuition, yeah. But that, I really thought, governance. I have to go into that a little bit further. So I had this strategy. I have to give a basis to the company, like an economical basis, business, and work with people. Because for me, an organization has three main realms. Like I would call, like I can give you different names for the first, like culture, okay, uh, self and organizational development. Like it's culture actually, governance and business.
Mm.
For me, this is the triad of an organization. Um, After 7 years, I just felt, that's time to work with the governance. I want to bring self-management to the company. I think we were too centralized. There were many, I would say, things I could perceive. Like we were too centralized, because to do all these changes I described, in a way, I would say I had to, but that's the way I could do. But that's the way I did. It was too centralized, the central administration. I think we are overstaffed staffed in this part as well. And then when we were starting to implement like self-management, experimenting the first circles, it was more about testing, prototyping, and so on. And then I was reading, someone gave me the Laluc's book. When I got into the green, I just said, well, since in the beginning, we are very green. We're too much green, actually. And it was, I don't remember the exact number. I think we had like 40 committees. And then and also I when I look, I try to, and I could, in a very small scale, implement, bring to the company self-management principles, because I believe in it. Like, people who are really close to me, we really had our agreements, and we really agreed the autonomy. But then I just thought it will go, I don't know if you say it in English, in cascade.
Yes.
Just say that.
Yes, we do.
I won't say it's a rule that it never happens, but I would say it didn't happen at all with us. It was, I would say, maybe almost a zero cascade. Of course, nowadays I would say people were just working as they were used to. Maybe they would feel insecure to do the opposite. So, and then at that time, I was reading the Laluc's book. It was really clear. I would say, in a way, we created. I would describe, as I perceive, the light and dark of the companies. So I would say we had a really human not in every parts of the organization, but in a way, we had this more human relations. People hear each other. You have people would feel they have the space normally to say what they their opinion and so on. But in the other hand, we were too permissive. I just realized there were many committees, but they didn't have the autonomy to decide and all this kind of things. So then I was even more sure self-management. I was already inside certain about it, but when I was realizing even more what was happening in our company, I was just sure, that's the path we should go
Yes.
towards to.
Yeah, I was in a workshop recently and someone shared with me the metaphor of like a campfire. This is like the green paradigm is like it feels warm and nice to be sat close around the campfire, but in the shadows there's lots of monsters and there's also lots of treasures that we don't get access to if we just stay by the warm campfire, So it's kind of the light and the shadow of the green paradigm. I thought it was an interesting metaphor.
It's a very good image.
It's George Poor who came up with it, I think. So then when you explore self-management, so then you bring in Fabiana Prudente, I think, is it, your colleague, and you introduce organic organization, which comes
firstly,
from
came Fabiana Prudente and Rodrigo Bergami. Then Rodrigo Bergami, they both were as constants for a period, and then came Marco Baron. Marco Baron and Fabiana Prudente are from Target Till.
Yes. Yeah, so I learned a little bit about organic organization and Target Teal on another episode of my podcast with Ravi Risk. But for listeners, can you share something about you test this in the central team first, don't you? So with like 30 people, I think, if I remember correctly. And can you say something about what organic organization is, O2?
So, nowadays I have a very simple image for me, conceptual one. Before answering detail how we started, I didn't have this idea at that time. Okay, when I was studying more afterwards, I would say we are in between sociocracy and holacracy. So I would say sociocracy is maybe like the foundation, the light of all of this. And I would say it tends to be too much collective. And then I would say holacracy brings more the individual, which I think it's very important. And and then with O2, I think we could find a place where it's really Apple's way, which is maybe bit in between this collectiveness and this individual. But nowadays, I would say we have our really pretty much through our consultants and Target too. They are still there in the company, they're still helping us. And but I would say now we have Apple's way,
Yes, good. That's good.
We have our own.
You evolved.
That's how it should be, probably.
Yes.
But but afterwards, I realized O2 could dialogue in a good way with us, because I would say it's in between these two perspectives, somewhere
I think
in between.
It also. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, it's okay. Yeah, somewhere in between this social collective perspective and individual.
I think it also has. My impression is it has a little bit more heart and humanness than holacracy too. That you have these different modes in meetings, for example, and patterns. That was the thing that appealed to me when I heard about it.
No,
No, go ahead.
no, please.
No, what were you going to say?
Um, what I would say some things. One is when you look objectively to our structure today, the circles and so on, you will see that all that we built in those first 7 years are objectively there. So we have this human organizational development circle, we have the diversity circle, we have, so because that's how it should be with a governance model. So in one hand, I would say uh, we had this background, this culture, this EPPO culture that could model and talk and find his own way with all the ideas O2 were bringing to us. Most of the time, it wasn't. It's a very harmonic and synergic relation. But sometimes, which I think is very good, we had tenses like, no, this is a very bad idea. It's not gonna work here. And sometimes they were really right. That was exactly what could work for that context and tension, as we say, a problem or something to resolve or do. But in others, we were just like, it's not about finding right or wrong, but we are in a perspective maybe that's hard for someone who is outside, a consultant. Maybe he's really inside with his heart, his mind and hands, but he's not inside completely. It's not possible. So that's something like, it's very important, I would say, like to be open, heart open, mind open, but to have this criticism. So we are still finding this way, we are still building. Well, we will always be, but um, so now it's been 6 years. We started to introducing the theme. What happened in January 2021 was that a department decided to be the first real experiment. Before we were like prototyping, yeah?
Mm.
The department at that time is what we call in Portuguese like controllership, would be like finance and budget area. They gave a name, which is still the name, caregiver circle. Then it became our first circle. So
Is that the
that's how.
cuidadoria? Is it?
Yes, cuidadoria, exactly. Because many changed, but this one still, since the day one, still the same name. Yeah,
That's nice.
cuidadoria. Yeah, it's kind of this. We call controladoria, like controllership. It's like changing this mindset of controlling to another thing.
I like that.
Supporting, like to supporting.
That's nice. Yeah. So
It doesn't. It's important. I would say, like in this between, like not too much collectiveness or individualism. I would say, like, of course we have budget, of course we have controls. Yeah, it's. I would say, for me, self-management. It's about working in a way that step by step, each day you try to control less controlling people. But I would say it's a mistake. You would say not controlling process.
mm.
I would say this is irresponsibility. So I would say that I feel that's the message that those people who decided we want to be the first experiment they want to give. Not control, not, let's try not to control so much people. Let's try to do it in another way.
Yeah, I like that. I think I read some things that you said about like people misunderstand that self-management is like chaos, no structures, no processes, and you were saying that no, it's very organized. There are very clear structures and processes. That's part of self-management.
I would say, and I can say it's not only my experience. I didn't have the chance yet to talk to many entrepreneurs, or some I read their stories relate to self-management, but I talked to people who talked to others like you, yeah. But it seems it's a common perception that actually it's quite a lot the opposite. You, you need to have a very organized, transparent, and structured process and policies. It doesn't mean rigid. They are structured in a way that makes it possible, even more dynamic, and this resilience in the company. But actually, I think, I believe it's not possible to make a serious, real self-management governance if you do not have very clear and structured, and a very structured governance. So it's the opposite. I mean, nowadays, Apple is much more organized in a dynamic way, yes, than we were. I mean, definitely. People's roles are much more clear and transparent. Our policies, everything. So it's just maybe this rosy view people could have, self-management. It's like people do whatever they want. Yeah, if it's agreed, yeah.
Yeah.
And remember, you have the responsibility for your actions, and you have that autonomy, real autonomy. I like to. Can I share a story? Very nice. I mean, I have many stories talking about autonomy. We were in it was like pandemic. Did you say pandemic? Okay. So it was pandemic, and then fortunately we offer a essential service. Our business didn't have the impact others had, but there was an impact, and we were cutting expenses. And then our main office, like the central administration, is in a road which is not so. We don't have public buses that goes until there. So some people go with cars, their own car, and others we have like a bus, a private company bus. We have a contract, yeah. And then there was this person who had a role which was related to what at that time we would call Roman resources. We don't have this anymore in that structure. And then this person, and then this person they were already in self-management model, so he had his own roles. And then there was that other person who was the lead link, who used to be a manager before, okay, a human resource manager. And then this he's an analyst in his job description. No, cargo, né? Como é que fala? So he was like an analyst in his position, and he decided he would just cut off this service. But it was quite a problem, because the other day people didn't have how to, they couldn't go to work or come back. Yeah. And then I was in this very, for me, it was interesting. I have to be honest, very interesting. Actually, I was not there. I heard about this conversation, this meeting. And then the former manager, who was the lead link, was talking to this guy. You cannot do this. And he said, yes, I can. Yes. No, but you cannot do this. No, yes, I can. And then I think someone said, no, maybe what you are trying to say is you should not have done that, but actually he can do this. So we try to do it in a very serious way, and respect, like that's maybe we can, now we have attention. Now we probably have to do something or encourage this lead link. Do you want to do something with this? And then actually something was changed in the structure. I think at that time, Dominion, do you say that?
Yeah,
A
domain.
a domain was created and so on. So yeah, there are many stories, but when you are talking, some memories just pop up.
What would you say has been the hardest moment for you? Maybe the biggest test? Because you as former CEO, that's I imagine you must have had moments where challenging things happened and
Eles chamam de okay. I thought I would look for an English word, but it's not needed. I would say there were two main challenges I lived. The second one was more intense. Yeah. But I believe the first one is really important in my point of view to share. This first moment is very intimate, even mental and psychological. I would say even spiritual, actually. To describe it in a synthetic way, we were in this phase like 2020, discussing about the model and how it would work in circles. So it was before the first experiments. So we're talking about self-management, just to have a picture. We were having workshops and so on. And I was really into that because I was the one who brought it. There was first, like, I would say tensions, but they were more theoretical, like more, but how it would work and some resistance as well. It was the first resist. And I was, until that time, I was more the person who was, no, let's go. No, this work. Yeah. Okay, let's. We had these sponsors. It was not circus, the sponsors group. Actually, it still exists now in another form until today. The self-management sponsors group. So it was mainly us asking questions, doubts, and sharing our anguish. And the consultants were answering. And then we got into this point to discuss about what probably would be, or we should have this circle, which now we call Collabora EPPO, like Collabora is from collaboration. It seems some companies, it's like a pull circle, something like that, another name. Which now I call it's the triad of the power of the managers, yeah? Which is hiring people, promoting people, and firing people. And then we're discussing that would have a circle that would do that. It could get into my mind. I just couldn't find how to be possible. This would be a mess. It would be. And then this was very, very nice experience I had. It was really actually a spiritual experience because I can really go in this labyrinth, myself. I was just in my mind, like with all this explanations and trying to figure it out. And then actually I was afraid nowadays looking. I remember exactly where I was. I just had this insight, and then I even wrote a kind of a small article, a small text, which is called The Essence is Simple. It doesn't mean this simple is simplistic. You have simplistic?
Yes, simplistic.
Which doesn't mean the simple is simplistic. Sometimes it's hard to get to the simple, Leonardo da Vinci says, the maximum of sophistication is simplicity. But then I just realized, I won't be able to explain myself how it will work theoretically. I just feel it's the way. I will let it go. I will trust. When I describe this to myself, again, I just feel again the feelings. It was very emancipating. It was how to say, it freed me. How to say, it got me free.
Liberating.
Yeah, it was really liberating. It's like something was blocking, and then, and actually, not coincidentally, just after that, we started our first real experiments. Yeah, with caregiving. Well, so this was a very intimate moment. Thank you.